Entitled people demand too much. I'm your host, Tite. Let's read about a bunch. Our first one is from Glee Froth. I'm 38, a structural engineer, and I live with my husband and our cat. My mother-in-law showed up unannounced this weekend, on Friday with her suitcase, calling it a holiday. She's always hated that I have a cat, but this scenario was unexpected. My mother-in-law can't stop visiting unexpectedly or uninvited. She compared my cat to termites, mold, even said if you let an animal wreck your home, how can anyone trust you to build safe structures? I've worked over decades to build my career, and she reduced all of it to an insult over my cat, a pet. Yesterday night, she gave me an ultimatum that it's either me or the cat.
If you care about this family, you'll prove it by getting rid of it.
Those were her exact words. I told her that the cat stays. This is my home. You don't get to walk in and decide who lives here. She screamed that I always needed control and locked herself in the guest room. This morning, she left without saying a word. My husband is stuck in the middle, and I can't get past the grudge. It wasn't just her dislike of the cat, but it was her trying to tear down my work, my stability, my sense of family. She just shows up to someone else's house and thinks they can evict their pet? I honestly wonder how this mother-in-law would feel if the OP went into the mother-in-law's home and started nitpicking every single little thing in there and basically giving her an ultimatum. She'd probably flip her collective shit because I feel like in the end, it's not the OP that needs control, it's the mother-in-law. This next one is by Mr. RGG. Many years ago, I was renting my house out. Had multiple applications and showings, but the weirdest one was a woman, Karen, and her husband and 3 teenage boys, who ran around the whole time playing tag. I was just hoping they didn't break anything.
You said it had 4 bedrooms.
It does have 4.
But only 2 have a private bathroom. The other 2 have to share one. My guys don't want to share.
Okay.
You'll need to repaint it to a more calming color, and the flooring in the kitchen is cracked.
The entire inside was just painted white, and there is 1 cracked tile. Maybe this house is not for you.
No, we'll take it. You'll just have to make some changes for it to fit our needs.
No thanks. Bye. I totally get everybody has an idea of what their home should look like or things like that, especially if they're going to be committing to buying a home. But in the end, if you're not buying a brand new house, you definitely need to expect the house to look like it's probably been lived in. This next one is from Affectionate Bet 2145. I went to a movie with assigned seating. When I got to my row, a man was sitting in my seat. I showed him my ticket and he said,
"Yeah, but this one has a better view. Just sit somewhere else."
The usher came over, checked his ticket, and it was for the next day. He argued, saying,
"Well, I'm already here."
Usher called the manager, and instead of getting to see the movie early, he was escorted out with no refund. It does make me wonder if they ended up taking the entitled person's ticket and literally made it to where they couldn't even come back the next day. Hell, who knows if they even trespassed them. This next one is by NinjaMum19. So, back in the day, my husband bought me a laptop from Sainsbury's, and I needed to return and exchange for a different model. As he worked there, we got a chunky discount, so it made sense. I waited for one of the 2 lads working in electronics to become free, and off we went to the laptop area to discuss options. After a couple of minutes, a lady came over and asked him for help. He looked at me, back at her, and told her he was dealing with me, and there was another assistant at the desk, so she trotted off without issue. I smiled at him, told him not to worry, and we carried on discussing my options, when another lady did the same thing. I'm well aware that I have resting bitch face, being a middle-aged, menopausal woman, but let him handle it again, until she insisted on him helping her first. I asked her, in my sweetest tone, "Excuse me, what makes you more important than me?" And just looked at her. She stood there, said,
"It'll only be a minute."
And I asked her again. No smile, sterner tone. She spluttered, looked at the assistant who directed her to the desk, and harumphed away. My lovely young lad couldn't contain his giggles as she left, stating that this was the best shutdown he'd seen, and he was a little bit scared of me, to which I gave him a huge smile and laughed with him. Then sorted me out with my current model that does everything I need and more. Don't mess with grumpy buggers, cheeky mare. I swear every single place you go in, there's an entitled person just like these people that act as if the person that's getting assisted doesn't even exist. They're completely invisible and they're the only one talking to that store employee. I'm glad the OP ended up shutting that one lady down, but I'm really glad that the first lady actually walked away without an issue. It seems like in these stories, that's an absolute rarity. This next one is by Fit Local 1300. I recently separated from my ex a few weeks ago. It was silent, the usual not working out separation, as I believed. He also sent me a spreadsheet, an Excel file, yesterday, with all the gifts he had purchased me in the past 2 years. Clothes, birthday presents, flowers, even a mug were considered gifts. His words were that I should give him back or buy them back at the fair market value. He said, "I invested in you, and when it did not pay, I want my stuff back." I laughed, and then he added that I was robbing him by holding a pair of Christmas sneakers that he took to me. The same guy had lost my AirPods, which he had borrowed, remember? Those did not appear in the spreadsheet. I replied to him that he would not receive anything back, and that he ought to compensate me for 2 years of my life. He blocked me after that. It is incredible that someone is entitled to it. I feel like this is the first time I've ever heard of somebody being so entitled that they literally put out a spreadsheet asking for everything they've done throughout a relationship, all those gifts, to be reimbursed to them. Like, no, it just doesn't work like that. And our final one is by Lord Wing Manny. About 2 years ago, my large family took a trip to Disneyland. About 22 of us in total. My wife and I have 3 young children who aren't big enough to ride all the rides, but fortunately, given our group size, some adults could stay with them while we got to ride some of the larger and more popular rides. So it was our turn to ride the Smuggler's Run in Star Wars, and the wait time was manageable, 45 minutes. About halfway into it, 3 young teenage girls walked past us. One was on her phone, and the other 2 smiling and drinking their drinks. They at least had the decency to say, "Excuse me." They hopped a couple of barriers and met up with some friends that I assumed were the ones the girl was on the phone with. No big deal. Doesn't bother me. Out of sight, out of mind. Now my wife and I are near the front of the line, and part of the next group get on the ride. The doors open, and it's finally our turn. As we're literally about to walk on, 3 more girls show up and say "excuse me" and walk right past us into the waiting area. The Disney worker asks them, "How many are in your group?" One girl says 3, another says 6, and another is just smiling and drinking her drink. I put the pieces together and realized they were part of the other group of teenagers, similar high school mascot shirts, who cut the line and were looking to meet up with them, but that group had already gotten on the ride. These girls had cut the entire line and were about to take the last available seats. After waiting for 45 minutes and getting cut in front of at the last possible moment, I was not going to let it slide. I spoke up and said, "Wow, you girls cut the entire line and expect us to be cool with that?" The Disney worker looks at me and then at my wife, and she explains to her that the girls cut the entire line, and it wasn't fair to everyone else who had been patiently waiting. After hearing that information, the worker calmly looked at them and told them they needed to leave and head to the back of the line and wait like everybody else. She then waved my wife and I in. It was a small victory, but I was glad to see those grins wiped off their faces. The ride was awesome. I highly recommend. See, myself and I'm sure many other people who are not entitled learned at a very young age that if you see a line, you wait your turn. You don't cut the line. But I guess when you're entitled, that all goes out the window because you don't see a line. You don't see anybody but yourself and the person you view to assist you. Alright, that's enough entitlement for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Entitled People. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons and super thanks contributors. Have a great day and stay safe out there.